Hello Rinpoche,
Hello, Tashidele.
thanks for agreeing to answer to my questions. You were recognized at a young age as the reincarnation of the previous Kalou Rinpoche, and you are today the head of the Shangpa lineage, Kagyu school of Vajrayana Buddhism.
Mm.
And first, my first question is, could you please share your personal journey into becoming a Rinpoche, and what does it mean? What does it hold to have such a title?
Greetings to everyone, and thank you very much for being here and wanting to spend time with me. What does it make you a Rinpoche or grown into this title? Well, first of all, Rinpoche means precious. So from the Buddhist perspective, we are all special because the human life is precious. Human life is precious not because we only exist. Human life is precious when we have a spiritual understanding, and that is a combination of when you say precious. So Rinpoche, it means precious. So all of us, we are Rinpoche, and we are all precious because we are all connecting with the spiritual understanding, whether it's a Buddhist philosophy or whether it's other different philosophy and spiritual approach and so on. And that's number one. Number two is that even I was recognized at a young age by His Holiness Dalai Lama and Siddhu Rinpoche and other great masters. But most of the time, all the commitment and dedication really requires a practice and a solitary. There's no shortcut just because you have a name and somehow miraculously you become something. That is just simply a fantasy. But all of us, when we are Buddhist practitioner or any other form of spiritual faith, we have our karmic connection. Therefore, we are naturally drawn into it, drawn into a Buddhist path or any other spiritual faith, and so on. So for me, it is Buddhism, and I've done my retreat, and during that time, I had this connection to the Niguma's teaching, and that is my spiritual journey.
Okay, so you talk about the Nigouma training. It's not a very well known in the Buddhism school. It's not a very well known practice. Can you talk about it? What's the difference with the 6 yogas of Naropa, for example?
The difference is there's no difference in general. Like an example, like a Nyingma lineage, Sacha lineage, Kagyu lineage, Gelug lineage, Chonang lineage, Shangpa lineage. These are and then Shije lineage. You know, the Shije lineage is the lineage of the Chö practice. Chonang lineage is a lineage of Kalachakra and other form of practice. And Nigu Shangpa Kagyu is Kagyu means Ka means the teachings of the Buddha, and Ju means the lineage of the Buddha. You know, and Shang means the origin of the place where the great master established the teachings in the province of central Tibet. So that's why we call it the Shang. You know, Shang. And Kaju means teachings of the Buddha. So basically you can say Nyingma is also Kajupa, Sacha is also Kajupa, Gelug is also Kajupa, Chonang is also Kajupa. So Kajupa is a name that you can apply to everyone. And speciality of the Nigouma teaching now, the speciality and the uniqueness of the Niguma's teaching is Niguma's Mahamudra's teaching is very much revered and very much respected by the Dzogchen practitioner and Mahamudra practitioner, by both, not just in a recent time, but throughout the centuries. So that's the second part. The third part is that the Niguma's teachings, Shangpa teachings, is part of the new tradition. The new tradition is after the Nyingma tradition has established, and there was a time of a little bit of a gap, a spiritual gap in between in Tibet. And during that time, many other great translators and masters, they went from Tibet to Nepal and India to receive teachings from all the great masters. So just like that, the Shangpa lineage has that origin, and that similarities are there. Now, the Nigouma teachings, we call it the 5 jewels of Nigouma. Not because it is required of jewels, it's because the opposite of the jewels. You know, the Nigouma, she said, if you have a pure mind, everything is like a jewel and precious. If you don't have a pure mind, wherever you try to find the precious, you do not find it. And that became the nickname of the lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the teachings of the Nigouma, there's a 5 golden dharma of Nigouma. The 5 golden dharma of Nigouma is based on the example in the tree. And that is the foundation of the Nigouma is the 6 yogas of Nigouma, which is the hit generating practice, illusionary body and mind, dream yoga practice, and the clear light practice, and then transmitting the state of the consciousness practice, and then intermediate state Pardo practice. That is the basic foundation of the Nigouma's teaching. And then the trunk of the tree is the Nigouma's nature of the mind training and teachings. And then the branches of the Nigouma's teaching is the 3 kayas, the 3 inseparable practice. And then the flower within the tree are the red dakini and the white dakini practice. And then the seed within the flower is a timeless practice. At that stage, all the idea, conceptual understanding about the visualization is very, very subtle, so that you recognize the nature of the mind. So that is the stages, all the different stages of the Nigouma's teaching.
Mm. And is there a specific initiation required to practice, or can anyone practice Nigouma with an online course or something like that?
You can definitely practice anything from the Lord Buddha's teaching if you have a pure heart. But with the transmission and empowerment, it accelerates your spiritual journey. There's no sets of rule or a law, because many other faiths you have to follow a religious law. In Buddhist faith, we don't have a law. You have a common understanding, you have your wisdom, you have your inner understanding, you have a spiritual understanding, and that's how you balance and make it work forward. You know, so that's the distinction between the Buddhist way of thinking and other religious faith. Other religious faith, you say, oh, you do this, you are bad, and you should feel guilty. You know, Buddhist practitioner, you should not feel guilty, regardless, but have awareness of your wrongdoing, have awareness of the virtuous action and the non-virtuous action. That's the principle of the Lord Buddha's teaching. That's number 1. Number 2 is that transmission, lineage is there, you know, for the 1,000 years. But at the end, even the transmission is received. If you don't cultivate solitary or practice, all of that is just a symbolic. If you practice it, then even the one teaching, let alone other teachings and other practice, even the one method of practice becomes a fruitful and path to the enlightenment, as well as to benefit others.
Many people today lead busy lives and with jobs and families. And what advice do you have for the individuals seeking to discover their Buddha nature, or to within their conventional life?
First of all, you have to understand that, like myself, even I wear the red clothes as a Buddhist practitioner, still I do have a busy life. I do have a lot of different kind of responsibility at different time. I'm not free from stress. I'm not free from lack of sleep. I'm not free from lack of responsibility or no responsibility. I have different kind of responsibilities and commitment and dedications and so on. But what I think, from my personal opinion, is to keep our mind pure. Pure in a sense, awareness. Pure doesn't mean that you don't be angry. Pure doesn't mean that you only be kind and be happy all the time and forcing yourself to be happy all the time. That is a fantasy. Be whatever you need to be, but always have this awareness in the back of your mind, and have an awareness of what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous. That's number one. Number two is try to do shamatha and vipassana meditation. That's number two. Number three, and focus on the little bit of yoga practice. Number four, focus on the diet. Be aware of what you consume, because what you consume affects on how you perceive, how you feel physically, mentally. You cannot be lack of discipline with what you put in your mouth and then say, I want to reach enlightenment. This is completely contradiction. So having awareness in what you consume, how you live your life, you should not be judgmental to yourself. You should not suffocate yourself, but you can reach to that state of mind, that way of life, gradually, naturally as possible. That is very important.
Could you provide your perspective on the concept of awakening or enlightenment or Buddhahood? What is it? And is it attainable by everyone?
Well, you see, the idea of that us being a Buddhist practitioner, we have this idea that attachment is bad, jealousy is bad, desire is bad, the anger is bad. We have a lot of ideas of this is bad, that is bad. But having this idea of what is bad and what is negative is one thing. Being able to overcome is another thing. Like an example, you can overcome anger with the 6 months of commitment with meditation, 9 months of meditation and retreat. You can overcome the anger very easily. You can overcome that. But attachment is very difficult to overcome. It will take a very long time to overcome. And then also a desire with the illusion of the mind. Desire, many of us, we have a desire to reach enlightenment, desire to attain Buddhahood. That's not a problem. But the desire with the wrong intention is always there. And the very existence of the wrong intention from your desire comes down to how you live your life, how you perceive yourself, how you develop your awareness. And all of that is a different elements combined together, isn't it? It's not a singular matter. It's a different element combining together. And that's one thing. But in order to reach to the enlightenment, we have to understand, we have to come to an acceptance that it is a long journey, not a few months, not when you like it and when you don't like it, not only the time that when you're so happy and when you're not challenged by other people, you feel free from challenge, and therefore you feel maybe you're more spiritually awakened. You are not. You're just not faced with a challenge. You are not tested. Doesn't mean that you are more awakened. So therefore it is very important, whatever the spiritual quality that we may have, always keep it humble, always keep it simple as much as possible. Don't judge yourself, don't judge others, let it be. In life there's so many different paths of cycle and suffering and joy and all mixture together in this life. So don't judge too much to others, don't be harsh on others, don't be harsh on yourself also. Enlightenment is a long journey. It's beyond the idea of good day and bad day. And focus on your awareness of your mind, awareness of your body, awareness of your speech. And then once you have that awareness of your body, speech, and mind, then you develop the subtle mind and the subtle body. When you recognize the subtle body, subtle mind, then you recognize the nature of the mind. Once you recognize the nature of the mind, then you have to maintain that recognition, not by force, not with the stiffness of the mind, but simply being in the natural state continuously, regardless of whether what is happening outside. So that is the beginning of your spiritual journey, beginning of the enlightenment, not enlightenment yet. That's why come to an acceptance is a long journey, but don't be hopeless. And also on the other side, don't be judgmental to yourself and others. Keep it neutral, keep it harmonious, keep it balanced, and keep on going.
I've got a question about the role of the guru because I have the impression that in Buddhism it's an important one. And can you explain what is a guru and how to recognize his or her guru?
Well, the thing about the guru is that many misunderstanding that we Buddhists tend to have is that we try to relate this idea of the guru almost to the Hinduism culture. Many people, when they become a Buddhist practitioner, they think that it's a little bit like a Hindu culture, finding a guru and following a master. That's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different culture, different spiritual faith, and that is absolutely right in its own path, in its own foundation, in its own tradition. But in Buddhist tradition, guru does not mean somebody who looks perfect, who sounds perfect, who talks perfect, who behaves perfect. That is just simply a deception that anybody can pretend. Anybody can memorize a text. Anybody can wear clothes like this. Anybody can shave and behave in a certain way and deceive people. That is very easy, and that has happened many, many years before, thousands of years before. It's not something new. It will never stop. It will continue. So don't be into this mindset, oh, we are in the degenerate time. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame on this idea of degenerate, and that reality will continue to exist no matter what. That's number one. Number two, in our Buddhist perspective, we have a few definitions of gurus. One definition of guru is the one that where they give us a place to stay, place to sleep, given us food, given us kindness, given us generosity in a human level. That is also a guru. Second guru is the one that will give us empowerment, transmission, introduction to the Dharma. That's the second type of guru. Third guru is the one who recognizes us, the nature of the mind. And then the fourth is seeing all the reality of the impermanence as a reflection of the truth and the ultimate truth, and understanding the relative truth and understanding the ultimate truth and so on. And these are the different type of guru. So this is a very traditional aspect. What I want to advise you is do not force yourself to find a guru. Don't do that. There's more than enough internet information with so many great teachers. And if you feel a little bit skeptical, this Rinpoche, that Rinpoche, it's no problem. Then you have a perfect master for that. You have His Holiness Dalai Lama, which is a free online teaching. There's more teaching than you can ever practice in your life. So you can go to that. It's free and it's there 24 hours. So therefore, you should focus on these teachings, get as much information as possible, practice a little bit of meditation, and when you develop your inner quality, then the great spiritual master, they will come to you instead of you going and searching. Many people, they book an expensive flight ticket to go to the other side of the planet, and from the other side of the planet to here as well. It doesn't always work. Great teacher exists, but sometimes even the great teacher exists when you don't have a pure perception and a pure mind. It doesn't matter whether it's in front of them, just like a Buddha. Buddha Shakyamuni, he's enlightened, but his father and people around him don't see him as an enlightened being, was still not impressed, isn't it? So if the Buddha still struggles, not himself that he struggles, but our ordinary perception struggles to that extent, let alone ourselves as an individual who are not even a bodhisattva, but still can help the people to lead in the spiritual path and so on. So therefore, keep your mindset open. And when people come to see me, they say, Kalou Rinpoche, I like your teaching. I want to be your student. And I tell them, of course, you can be my student. And you stay away from me, I tell them. That's the first step. You have to learn the Dharma, not me. You will not learn nothing from me. What you experience, with me, with a little bit of practice, what I experienced, what I accumulated, I'll gladly share with you. But once you exceed my experience and my understanding, then you should seek other different mentor and spiritual master and so on. So take a notch down, take it slow, be steady, don't rush, receive many teachings as possible, and don't ask anybody to be your guru or can you be a student, because if you have to express like that, you are in the wrong place. If you really have a pure heart and if you're really practicing correctly, you don't need to address to your teacher. The teacher doesn't have to address that you are a student. Both of these two people, regardless of different level of understanding, they will understand each other. You understand? If you have to address that, can I be a student? Or if the teacher have to say, you can be my student, you are in the wrong place and you are wrong for each other. If you practice genuinely with all the teachings that we can receive from His Holiness Dalai Lama, all that natural connection and bond will come all by itself. That is my opinion.
That's perfectly clear. And I've got a last question about you have a lot of responsibilities, and do you have the time to practice? Because you have a lot of centers and a lot of administrative work. I imagine that it can be overwhelming. How can you find the time to have a practice? And my question is to also to help the people who are in the same situation.
There's sometimes that I don't find a time to practice, and there's some time that I do find time to practice. But most of the time what I do is that I change the dynamic of my schedule. Because before 14 years ago, the way I do the teaching is always based on the demand and the request of the Lama of the center. And what I did gradually over the time is that instead of doing a one weekend or instead of doing a one evening, I do like a retreat, like a 3 days retreat or 1 week retreat, so that with that reason I can also practice together with people. And that is something that what I do, and also to help myself as well.
I want to thank you for your generosity and for your time, and it's very precious for me to have the chance to have this conversation. I saw your teachings and your interviews on the internet, and I'm really impressed by your authenticity. So thank you again.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful time.
Thanks.
All the best.